Ooh, that was so nice. All right, so indeed, thank you for coming and listening to what we have to teach you on hair removal. So I'm going to cover the topic on how did it all started. And that was about 30 years ago. Here you see the first ruby laser. At the time in the 1990s, we only had Q-switched nanosecond pulses ruby. So we knew that we needed longer pulsed ruby lasers. And at the time, for a pigment laser, we only had Q-switched laser. So the engineers made a 350 microsecond ruby laser, and with this prototype in the lab, we did the first 12 patients for hair removal. Then it took us about 5 years to do all the studies, and in '97, the first commercially available laser for hair removal that you can see here on the picture was launched. It was called the EpiLaser, and a year later, in '98, we obtained FDA approval for permanent hair reduction. And this was based on the paper that we published in Archives in '98, where we showed on those 12 patients that it is possible to obtain permanent hair removal. And in the '90s, that was really revolutionary. At the same time, parallel to the ruby studies, we started doing a study for hair removal with an 800 nanometer diode laser. And here you see a picture of this prototype. It took us also 3 years to get the FDA clearance, and since the introduction, the LightShear is one of the most popular lasers for permanent hair removal, and the current version is called the LightShear Duet. So what is the mechanism of action to remove unwanted hair? It is based on the principle of selective photothermolysis, and the mechanism is photothermal, because we choose a wavelength that is absorbed by the melanin in the hair shaft that creates heat. The heat diffuses out to the surrounding follicular epithelium to finally get to the target, which are supposed to be the stem cells in the bulge or the bulb. So any laser where the melanin absorption is higher than the absorption for oxyhemoglobin can be used for hair removal, because our target is the melanin in the hair shaft. So we have, besides ruby, also alexandrite, diode, YAG lasers, and flash lamps, which cover this bandwidth range. Over the years, we accomplished the clearance for permanent hair reduction. So besides ruby and diode, also the flash lamps, the alexandrites, and the YAGs can obtain permanent hair reduction. The second FDA clearance was the clearance for treatment of dark skin, and this is where Elliot took over. He did the studies at Wellman Labs with 800 nanometer diode and YAG lasers, so using longer wavelengths, longer pulse durations, and an effective epidermal cooling, which increases epidermal protection, allowed us to treat darker skin types. The indications for hair removal are, beside cosmetic indications, also a lot of medical indications. Here you see an upper lip before and 2.5 years after, an axilla, the chest of a female before and after. Hirsutism, we made a lot of women with this disorder very happy. Folliculitis barbae, and we can also use it to epilate donor sites and flaps. But we still have shortcomings. We still need multiple treatments. There still is a multiple device approach, and we still have challenging cases. The question is then, why do we need several treatments? So to start with, the hair follicle is a very, very complex target in the skin. It goes through all these growth cycle phases, anagen, catagen, and telogen. Then there is an influence of the hair characteristics themselves, the hair diameter, the hair color, the influence of the body location. So the depth of the target is different depending on the body location. the hair follicle on a male back is located much, much deeper than the hair follicle on an upper arm. And then each anatomical location also has different ratios of anagen to telogen. And so this gives us also limitation of light delivery to the targets. And then the question is, what is the target? The hypothesis is it the stem cells that are located at the periphery of the outer rim, of the outer root sheet? Is it the hair bulb and the matrix? Or is it the vessels in the papilla? And we really tried to answer this question, but we did not succeed. And another issue is when we are performing hair removal, our patients are presenting with different skin types, different skin colors, different hair colors, different hair types, different densities, diameters, and then the regrowing hairs are finer and lighter. So if we want to to treat all these different characteristics, then we need a multiple device application. And this is what is on the market today. Devices do have different wavelengths to be able to treat with all the different needs for doing hair removal. So which one is the ideal hair removal laser? All of them are effective on coarse hair. That is easy. The shorter wavelengths are effective on thinner and lighter hair. And on the darker skin types, you need to go to the longer wavelengths to be safe. But we still have voids. We cannot remove fine and light hairs on darker skin types, and then also stay away with any device from skin that has a suntan. And then we have the challenging cases. The treatment itself on a subset of patients can induce paradoxical hair growth. Removal of white hairs, we are not able to remove those hairs. No melanin, no effect at all. How to deal with the red hair color, because they have more pheomelanin, which has much less absorption coefficient than eumelanin. Nevus of Becker. I have not been successful permanently removing this hair, and this has also been published in the literature. And then melanocytic nevi, a very controversial topic because of the potential of malignant degeneration on itself, and whether lasers induce this malignant transformation. But what do you do with these cases? You don't have a lot of options. So there are indeed a lot of challenges that still remain, and is there room for improvement? Certainly. So I encourage you all to think about these topics, and maybe one day we come up with a solution for these challenging cases. I want to finish with the last topic is we started with very high energy powered big devices, but today in the market we have a lot of home use devices available, and there has been over the last year a very rapid proliferation. And today's landscape of devices for hair removal, we have a lot of choices. Luckily, the major consumer companies like P&G, Philips, Unilaser became involved, and they contributed a significant investment in consumer device research. Without them, we could not have gotten where we are today. They helped us for technology development. They put in a lot of investment in doing the studies right. And some of these home use devices did receive FDA approval because of substantial efficacy and safety data. So if we compare both, if we use professional devices with single pulses, high energy, we are definitely damaging the follicular structure, and after X number of treatments, this follicular structure miniaturizes. However, when we use low fluence home use devices, we only induce a transition from an active growth phase through overcatagen into a telogen phase. So we are only able to induce a temporary growth delay. And this is what you see here on this curve. This research was sponsored by Philips. You see if patients get 5 treatments, they come into this growth delay phase, but when you stop, all the hair grows back. So then they decided to do a large-scale study. 90 female patients were included. They were all treated in the research center by a professional on their lower legs. So for the first year, every 1 or 2 weeks, they received a treatment on the lower legs. Then for another year, every 3 weeks, they came in for maintenance treatments. And then they stopped. They did hair counts on all of these 90 patients. Can you imagine the amount of data that they collected? And then they followed them up for another year, and they could see that after initial regular treatment, maintenance treatments for another year, they were able to maintain permanent hair reduction. The hypothesis is, if you do repetitive damage to the hair follicle, at the end you can induce permanent damage to the follicular structure. So who should we recommend these home use devices? Well, those patients that are under economic pressure, those patients with hormonal disorders, those patients often require ongoing maintenance treatments, of patients who just want to remove the hair privately at home. What to recommend? As in many fields of the home use devices, there is a wide range of quality in the available devices. So I would advise devices from major consumer companies because they are backed up with safety and efficacy data. And I want to thank you for your attention.